fantastic presenter for today, who is Chantelle Smith, who will be known to some of you, I'm sure. Chantelle is the National Access and Mobility Manager for NCBI and is also the co-founder of the Possibility Lab. Now, today, she's very kindly agreed to come and talk to us today about reshaping transport and mobility. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Chantelle.
Thank you, Madeline, and thanks everyone for joining us at today's Advocacy Talks live event. I'm delighted to be here and to talk a little bit more around the work that I do in the Possibility Lab alongside my fantastic team, and then also to share a little bit more around how the work that we're doing is reshaping transport and mobility in Ireland, and really kind of shift our focus as well in terms of what's ahead of us and what the future looks like in this space. So I guess a little bit about me and my background. I've been working at NCBI now for just over 4.5 years, I think, and working as an orientation and mobility specialist and access consultant for a good number of years before that. And I guess my passion comes from being able to transform the way people experience connecting with the world through mobility. And my role now is primarily through the Possibility Lab, and I have the most rewarding job. I'd love anyone to challenge me on that. Working alongside a team who have very generous hearts, but put a massive amount of effort into improving accessibility day in, day out. And I guess our why is knowing that mobility is a fundamental right, and navigation is an essential part of every person's life. And I guess there's so much more to be done to facilitate freedom of movement, whether that's work or play. And we have a big job on our hands, and we can't do it alone. So we work alongside a great team within NCBI, but we also partner with external organisations to have greater impact. And also when we are undertaking any sort of training or consultancy, working hand in hand with our own service users, or access ambassadors as we call them, in the work that we do. So I guess what I really want to speak to is the future of transport and mobility, but a little bit more around the NCBI's Possibility Lab and what that's all about. And I guess it all started off a little primarily around this conversation around access and mobility and the symbiotic relationship between the two. So mobility focuses on the satisfaction of someone's needs, whereas accessibility focuses on physical access to things like buildings, environments, vehicles, infrastructure. And they're the instruments that are required for the concrete realisation of our mobility or our movement. And both need to be firing for success. So it's possible to have good mobility but poor accessibility. So we might have good cane skills as an example, but then we can't get through the front door because it's too heavy, or we can't operate the controls. It's also possible to have good access but poor mobility. So we could have an efficient and safe public transport network, but not the knowledge on how to move to the bus stop or on the service. So that's where the Possibility Lab comes in, and our day-to-day is more focused on the big picture and how both access and mobility can be harnessed to improve the way individuals connect with people and the places that they visit. So NCBI is over 90 years old at this stage, and we've learnt over that period of time that mobility training alone isn't enough to address how deeply inaccessible Irish society is. So we also know, and this has come really to the forefront since 2020, COVID, that period, that the world is dramatically changing and more rapidly than ever before. So we have very new requirements of people who are blind or vision impaired as they across their entire lifespan while they move and navigate their way through all sorts of environments. While services continue to provide individual supports in local areas in terms of what the supports that NCBI provides. The Possibility Lab works directly with our colleagues who are tasked with providing supports in local environments, and we also work with professionals or organisations where their responsibility is or remit is designing the built environment. So we really exist to help others put inclusion into practice, and really making sure they have the knowledge and the tools to make sure places are as inclusive as possible and can be accessed by everyone, but in particular people who are blind or have low vision. So our mantra really is access is everyone's business, and we're a small team, and we need all of the support that we can to have reach across the country. The core team at the Possibility Lab is, I guess, dedicated and purpose-driven, but we are professionals who have a background in orientation and mobility and access, and we collectively pool our skill sets to try and find solutions in this space. Our bread and butter is providing accessibility training and technical consultancy to businesses and organisations who are really interested in improving the design of their buildings and services, and addressing the barriers that face people who are blind or low vision every single day. A core part of what we've been doing for the last 18 months is around providing inclusive design advice to built environment professionals, engineers and architects. We commonly get requests from technologists, and then I guess beyond that, we heavily get requests from local authorities, healthcare, education facilities. Because the built environment is so vast, there is such a breadth of work and different types of requests that we field every single day. And to that end as well, when I was referring back to just how rapidly the world is changing as well, it is becoming increasingly complex, and even how the way we consider accessibility is evolving very quickly. So even in the short time that we've been in the Possibility Lab and doing the work that we do, we have had to pivot many times to respond to different needs or concerns that might be really time sensitive or relevant. So one of those examples would have been the big body of work that we had completed around micro-mobility. So that was something that hadn't really been considered across Irish society before the start of 2021, and it was through COVID where we saw the proliferation of all sorts of schemes, e-bikes, e-scooters, and we're hearing the concerns of our service users around the impact that was having on their confidence to get out and access the community safely. So at that point in time, there was a bit of research conducted as well, and those changes were reported to have impacted over 70% of our service users' confidence during that period of time. So that was related to the massive increases in cycling infrastructure, changes to shared space or allocation of public space. There's a broad range of things that were going on there. In terms of the Possibility Lab and our approach, I've touched on it just briefly now, but all of our work is completed in partnership, and that is typically with our peers within NCBI, and we work very closely with NCBI's advocacy team and also our access ambassadors or access advocates. So I just wanted to bring two examples to the table today around how we have worked really closely with advocacy and our access ambassadors. And one example from recently is Dublin Airport. So this is an example of where an advocate has brought forward a specific concern around access. And in this case, it was the signage within Dublin Airport. Now, there's many things that we could address in that space in terms of being able to enhance someone's journey as they move through the airport, in particular if they are blind or have low vision. But the initial concern was around signage. So we went out with the advocacy team as well and met with some staff members at Dublin Airport and completed a walkthrough appraisal. So we looked at the signage, where it was located, looked at wayfinding from public transport through to, check-in, baggage carousels, security, right through to the boarding gate. And so as an output of that appraisal, we'd made some recommendations, and some of them are being gradually implemented by Dublin Airport. There's some key pieces there around signage and the security system as you go through security. We also, at that point in time, had made some key recommendations around the size of text and the positioning of screens through to contrast on those digital screens as well that are providing real-time information about people's flights. So that was a nice way of being able to link in with our access advocates and also NCBI's advocacy team to get a really good outcome. And another long-standing project that we've been involved with, and this has included both access advocates but also local staff members at NCBI, is the Abbey Quarter development in Kilkenny. So Kilkenny is blessed with some really fantastic local advocates and staff who are really passionate about improving the accessibility of Kilkenny. And they've got a fantastic urban realm development called the Abbey Quarter, and that's going to evolve over, it's already been in play for a number of years, but it will continue for a good few beyond this year. So there's constant need for both NCBI staff but also our access advocates to be interacting with the local authority there and advocating for things that will enhance people's experience as they move through the Abbey Quarter in the future. And one of those key recommendations is the inclusion of a braille trail or a guidance trail. So that's not dissimilar to what exists on one side of Grafton Street. It's a long guidance trail or path that supports someone's provides a solid continuous line for people to be able to move through a space confidently, and also in the case of the Abbey Quarter, connect individuals with key services or key monuments or points of interest within that space. Other things that we've been working on in the Possibility Lab that I just wanted to bring to the attention of our service users as well is the Safe Micromobility in Ireland module. So going back to that piece that I mentioned around micromobility or e-scooters, we've worked really closely with advocacy in terms of the legislation and some key challenges around that. But in the background of all of that, we provided, or not provided, we've engaged with a broad range of stakeholders through emergency services, local authorities, micromobility scheme operators, and other disability organisations and our own service users, so they were able to provide feedback and contribute to the content development of an industry-first module related to empowering people to have as much knowledge as possible around the new, I guess, or the advent of e-scooters and e-bikes across Ireland. So we do have this module available now for free for all of our service users, and beyond that, anyone that has an access need. So this is delivered in webinar format, but also e-learning module. And the next webinar will be hosted on September 7th at 3 p.m. So right now you can go onto NCBI's website if you like and book into that event, and that doesn't cost anything. Another project that we've worked on with advocacy as well is a new resource, which is a hospital care pack to support patients with a vision impairment. So this, again, was a service user had provided insight, and we hear it time and time again as well around the challenges of a hospital stay and when staff aren't informed about that experience. So we set off and created specifically a resource around gearing staff up to support people and provide the best possible care in that environment. So that includes an information booklet that details different types of eye conditions, how to communicate with people most effectively. Also, we've provided things like links to NCBI's sighted guide video and real practical things as well. So it's a physical kit. So they also have tactile bump-ons in that physical kit. So staff are geared up to support people as best as possible. We've posted out that physical pack to all hospitals and also to all our local NCBI offices. So if you do need a pack, please do reach out locally and or you can email hello@possibilitylab.ie and we'll get one to you. Another thing there is the position statements that we've worked over the last 12 months. So again, we've not done this in isolation. This has been fed into by our Access LAN and our peers, and specifically to address some of the most commonly requested access issues. So accessible pedestrian signals, braille and tactile signage, colourful crossings, journey planning, street furniture, and there's more to come. So I guess now I really want to shift the focus to the future and what's next. And I know I've got some questions coming through there, so I'll try and address them, and we should have enough time. But I guess the reality is the world that is changing very, very rapidly, and in particular in the case of transport and mobility, it's almost like a revolution at the moment. We're staring down the barrel of things like autonomous, driverless vehicles. We are expecting that in the next 10 years there will be more change across transport and mobility than there has been in the last 100 years. So there's lots for us to do. I wanted to share, before I finish off as well, 3 key things. So one was another piece of the work that the Possibility Lab does, and then that is around mobility innovation. So we've got a broad range of projects happening in that space. One of them had previously been Microsoft Soundscape, and at the end of last year, Microsoft stepped back from developing that app and made it open source. And that's an app that I guess has become really popular in Ireland for people to be able to access 3D spatial information around their environment. We've joined with the Soundscape community to ensure that that app can continue to run and that there's a continuity of service for people moving forward. So NCBI is looking forward to making an announcement alongside a consortium of other partners towards the end of the month on how to access this reinvigorated app and what that looks like. I'm seeing two questions here, and I'm going to answer them because I was leading into it anyway. So how can someone become an Access ambassador? You can either directly email us at hello@possibilitylab.ie, or on our web page, which is part of the NCBI website, there is a link for our Access panel. And so part of the Access panel, you can indicate whether you're interested in being an Access ambassador or a user tester. So we appreciate that not everyone is interested in all of the different things that you could actively be engaged with the Possibility Lab. But there is opportunities to be involved in inclusive design consultancies, user testing, speaking opportunities for the awareness training. So please, the form that is completed provides basic information, your name, your contact number, and we typically share that up against with everybody that is registered on the Access panel, and we would make a decision around who would be involved, normally on geographical location. How to sign up for the micromobility course. So you can, again, if you want to do the webinar version, you can sign up for September 7th via events on NCBI's webpage or website, sorry, or you can email hello@possibilitylab.ie and we'll share you the link for the Vision Academy and the course that we've uploaded there so that you can complete it in your own time. I'm just going to pop into some other questions here. What do I see as the biggest mobility challenges for people with sight loss in the future? So much is changing. I think and there's so much reallocation of space in the city. I saw I was reading a document there from the UK the other week as well, and it was saying that 60% of the buildings that will be in society in 2050 don't even exist yet. So fundamentally, the world around us is going to look completely different, and the way we move through it is going to be completely different. And I think we've got an amazing opportunity, more than challenge really, but it's up to us now to really grab that opportunity, and that's to make sure that we're at the table talking about inclusive design and making sure that all of these new spaces and infrastructure systems are inclusive for people who are blind or have low vision, and that their needs are equally represented alongside all of the other stakeholders involved. There will be challenges, and there's things like shared schemes that at the moment individuals who are blind or have low vision can't access. So things like your e-bikes, your e-scooters, and how those schemes impact on the way you move from point A to point B. So there's another element there where we've got to work really closely with these scheme operators to make sure that any of these new designs are not impacting on the access way or key things like public transport stops so that you can catch public transportation, and also other safety elements like crossing the road. So it's just a big job in terms of the amount of change that's happening in that space, and making sure that we're able to have as many conversations as possible so that our built environment professionals, our engineers and our architects are geared up to be able to design these spaces so that people can still move freely, confidently and safely. Let me just...
I think that all sounds Fantastic, Chantelle. I mean, I think
Yeah.
you've given us a really good overview, there of everything that you're doing. I don't want to interrupt you if you had something else to say there.
I could go on all day.
That's absolutely fine.
I've tried to answer some of those questions there, and I hope that I've captured as many. I think it's that there's a question there around some of the biggest challenges, and it really is just change and how the environment is going to be shaped in the future.
Do you think that the kind of legislation that's come in the the recent past in terms of the NCPRD and all of those things is that making a difference in terms of planners being more aware of accessibility in their designing or not? Are we seeing that yet?
There is, I guess, the imperative there, and we're supported by UNCRPD and some other changes that are happening in Europe as well. There's still so much work to go on in that space, sorry, and a long way to go. So in terms of specific design for people who are blind or have low vision that really supports them. So when I say that, I'm not talking about space requirements. I'm talking about contrast, lighting, all of those key pieces that support wayfinding. A lot of the standards that exist at the moment don't have enough detail, we don't have a national guidance on tactile paving. So they are pieces that we're working on in the Possibility Lab, but also we need collectively everybody to support us with, so that we can really take greater strides towards improving accessibility in the years ahead.
Absolutely. It does seem to be a key point. It's just trying to get that kind of one approach across, all the different environments, if you like, whether that be transport or the street or, or all of those things, or within buildings. And at the moment, it seems to be a bit of a patchwork of people using different tactile paving for different things, and there's not that consistency at the moment.
No. And on that piece, Madeline, I guess NCBI has a really exciting project and a really ambitious goal as well. That's coming towards the end of the year, early next year, and that's the Wayfinding Centre. So that's been in the pipeline for a good while, and at the moment we're I guess getting ready to operationalise that centre, and we'll be more actively engaging with people to put some shape around what that service looks like when we open the doors. But this particular space is specifically around transport and mobility, and how we can make all future modes and journeys in Ireland as accessible as possible to everyone. But where I think the gold in that project is that it's going to be this collaborative space. So yes, there will be opportunity to have mobility training in that space, to one-to-one or in groups, but we will also be inviting transport staff, built environment professionals, designers, academics, policymakers to come together and really accelerate an inclusive mobility agenda and innovate with people that have disability, and that includes our service users.
I think it's going to be very exciting when it does open. I know it's been eagerly anticipated for quite some time now, so I'm sure that everyone will be desperate to get in the door and have a look. But I realise it'll be only open to people who need it and all of that. But I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to the service that NCBI provides, and as you say, widening out to include training for the staff working in these transport companies, as well as as you say, policymakers. I think hopefully down the line we will really then see the impact of that, making a difference into the planning and the awareness raising, which is, I think, so important. And as we say, our advocacy team here, that's one of the big things that we focus on, is awareness raising. So to have that kind of physical place to go to actually see those things in action, to see best practice, I think will be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and to have that collaboration space where everybody's at the table, and to bring about some joined up thinking is something I'm really excited about, and it's a fantastic legacy project, not just for NCBI but for Ireland, because it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, we definitely want to be first. We'll be very happy with that now. First and best, both things.
Of course, and we'll get it in the right order.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, but I mean, I think it's just been fantastic to hear the kind of breadth of things that you're involved with, and I know everyone wants everything to change now, and we have to be aware that changes, although as you say, change in the built environment is happening rapidly, and there's lots of changes coming down. Trying to keep up with that is a challenge, and so we need to, I suppose, bear that in mind. And I guess going forward, the aim would be that the accessibility piece will be kind of built in at the start, so that we're not always playing catch up. I hope that would be the hope for the future. Would you agree?
That's it, and that it's baked in to the DNA of every single project. That would be my wish for the future. But also for everybody to be clear, and at the same, I guess, everyone to be at the table and having a conversation around what sort of community we should be building for the next generation, and what decisions we can make now to shape our cities in a way that they are accessible for all.
Absolutely, and I guess that is the part of the challenge, is making it accessible for all, because we all have different needs. So I guess needing to bear in mind that things that maybe for people with sight loss might not be ideal for somebody in a wheelchair, or with different needs. So it is, isn't it, to the challenge to kind of balance all of that out as well.
That's it. But if everyone's at the table, we'll get closer to being able to balance all of those different needs. And that's all I can say there.
Absolutely, and we're definitely, I think, moving in the right direction. I think certainly, the last 20 years that I've lived in Ireland, you can definitely see improvements, and that's always, it's good to be pushing for improvement, for change, and things to be better. But I think it's also important to recognise, things that have happened too. So both is important. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chantelle. I think that's been really enlightening to find out everything that the Possibility Lab are doing, and the work that's kind of coming down the line in the future as well. I'd just like to thank everybody for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed the talk, and really learned something new, and maybe you might consider signing up for the micromobility course, or signing up to be an Access ambassador in whatever shape or form that you would like to do that. Just again to remind everybody that this session was recorded, so if you want to listen back, you can always do that on the NCBI YouTube channel, which you can also access through the NCBI website. So thank you very much, everyone.